Are you really confused about where to go in terms of starting a business model around your AI expertise in 2025? I don't think you're alone, right? People are saying SaaS is dead. The AI automation agency model is dead. Everything is dead. Apparently, YouTubers like to kill everything off. So I'm here to help you break down what's going on in the marketplace, what's happening in the industry right now. And I'm going to talk through my approach and how I'm going to tackle this problem in 2025. I think one thing is true, though. We have to acknowledge that the SaaS game is changing. The traditional enterprise SaaS model is going to face a lot of challenges in 2025. I think when people are talking about SaaS being dead, they're really talking about seat-based pricing being at risk, and therefore people's multiples are at risk. And so that's just a really different game than what's actually happening on the ground, where folks are building out micro SaaSes or agentic SaaS products or even agents as a service. That's a different game. And these traditional enterprise SaaS products are facing problems in terms of it takes a lot of development resources. They're really struggling to retain customers. They're in a crowded market facing a lot of intense competition, and growth and profitability is looking bad in 2025. The reason is because it's a red ocean. The barrier of entry has reached zero at this point. Anyone can stand up a AI slop SaaS, right? You get Supabase, you get for sale V0, boom, you have a SaaS, you're in the market. And while this is a good thing because it democratizes SaaS for everybody, now everyone can be an entrepreneur, everyone can start a business, it also really has an impact in terms of there's a lot of low quality products out there. Hell, I've even put out some of these low quality products. And of course, this poor user experience that a lot of these enterprise SaaS products have is coming back to bite them because now people are frustrated with these really bad user experiences where they're just basically doing data entry into really clunky software and they're just replacing it. They're saying, hey, I don't want to do all this weird data entry into your thing. I'm just going to build my own version of this that's very custom for me. And that's really biting these big SaaS companies. And limited differentiation, right? It's hard to stand out in a market where people can easily copy all your features. So if you're just a faceless SaaS brand and no one knows who you are in terms of a personality or there's no face behind the business, then you're just a list of features and that's really hard to connect with. That's why you see all these CEOs of big companies going out, doing podcasts, doing interviews, really being the face. That wasn't true a couple of years ago. Now everyone is trying to build a brand around their SaaS product. And so if you're not building a SaaS, maybe you should start with an AI automation agency. And I think this is also becoming a traditional model. It's only 2 years old, but it still feels like a very old model because it's just the services based business rewrapped with AI automation. And actually, AI automation is not anything new, it's just business process automation with another name. And so you're really in this red ocean again with a lot of low barrier to entry tools that are really easy to pick up, things like Make and NAN, where people can build out these small integrations and small automations. Of course, there's going to be some successful folks out there, but overall, if a client can just pick up these tools and do it themselves, or if anyone can start building this and selling them for $3,000, $5,000, you're effectively competing with thousands of people at this point with the exact same offer. Fulfillment becomes really complex. Like I mentioned again, this business is not really about automating anything. What you're really in the business of is mapping out processes because you have to do this first before you automate something in someone's business. If you come to me and you're like, I'm going to automate your YouTube videos. I'm just going to clone your voice and then I'm going to spit out YouTube videos for you every week. I would probably say, no, I don't want that because the quality is going to be really bad. You're not an expert in it. And also, I don't want that to be my brand right now, right? That's just not the vibe I'm going for. And so that's the approach most people are taking with this. They're not really understanding someone's business and they're trying to automate a random portion of it because it sounds good on paper. You actually need to sit and do the business process mapping. That takes meetings, that takes having a team, that takes having the patience to go through someone who may not even know the process themselves. There's a lot of client variance. You're not working with the same client back to back. Most people who are starting these automation agencies, the client that you have this week is not the same client you have next week because you're doing a completely different automation. You haven't productized anything. And so one week you're building a Gmail integration, the next week you're working with Zendesk, the next week you're working with maybe, I don't know, GitHub or something like that, right? So it's all over the place and it's very resource intensive. This business model requires that you do a lot of upfront selling and then have a lot of freelancers on the back end that you pass work off to. You end up being this middleman that you're playing between two different audiences. Some people thrive off of this. You may thrive off of this, and this works really well for you. But I assume if you're watching this channel, you're probably not aligned really well with this model. You're technical, you like doing some of the work. And so having to constantly ping back and forth between the client and also a really back end large team is annoying at least. And it's also really hard to scale. Most people are going to be like, I have 80 clients, I have 100 clients. Now, I don't know how true that is with one or two people in a business, but you're going to need an army of folks to fulfill past 4 or 5 clients because everyone's business is different and you need to be able to deep dive into them. If you have really good account managers, maybe they can handle more than 2 or 3 clients at best. But again, you have to train those account managers. This is a really heavy business to run. All right, so why am I moving towards the agentic SaaS model? And I'm gonna hype it up a little bit here, so get ready, bear with me. But I think this model is transforming both service delivery and SaaS. It's combining the best of both worlds and leaving behind the things we don't want. It helps you get more predictable, consistent results for your clients. It's a shift from like bespoke implementations over into like self-service solutions. Now, the great thing about this is distribution first. Your agents are purpose built for a niche, not mass market. The niche can be something that you own in terms of being an authoritative figure in that niche, and you have an audience that is following you in terms of they're looking to you for solutions because you've already been providing solutions, educating the market, and also people are looking to you to help guide them in terms of what are their next steps in some big transformation. And it's based on value. The deliverables are value based instead of being intangible, lifelong seats. And an example of this would be, let's say you build an AI agent and its job is basically to deliver a set of qualified leads to a business. That AI agent's job is to go out into the web, scrape as many leads as possible from different sources, work with a criteria provided by your client to give them a definite list of people they can follow up with. Now, this isn't my preferred method of getting clients, but there are tons of businesses that work this way where they get a leads list and then they reach out to contact them. You could take it a little bit further, and then the agent can draft those first emails and then send out to that list as well. And this is a specific agent you can build in multiple verticals. Personally, I don't want to build this, but I know there are a lot of people building these type of agents out there. And it's also self-service focused. So that means when your client logs into some type of portal, they can interact with the agent, put in their context, put in their details, and they get the deliverable back without ever even contacting you. Of course, there might be some support requests here and there. Maybe they want the agent customized a little bit. You can have your backend packages that do that, but overall, it's a really low touch process. There's no need to have a massive team to do this fulfillment. There's no need to have a sales team to bring in the client because they're mostly inbound, and the client can just service themselves through a portal. And it also works with this idea of micro SaaS, right? Because you're narrowing down into a very specific set of core functionality. And instead of having a massive backend on the SaaS side, where you need to do a lot of development to satisfy enterprise requirements, you can build a micro SaaS tool that's not looking to operate in a highly regulated space that needs to operate with the strictest on-prem requirements. It's just something that someone can use online really quick. It's a digital tool and it just solves a problem. And I think you can do this without millions of dollars in funding. You don't need to go to a VC, get millions of dollars just to build version 1 of your application. And the best part for me is I think you can really start to leverage inbound marketing. Now, it won't be 100%, but you can get pretty high up into the, I think 70% of your marketing is all just inbound focus. And then you can leverage maybe paid ads or outbound outreach in the smaller percentage instead of it being so heavily focused on a big go-to-market sales motion that usually comes with enterprise sales. This is not something I'm making up. You could just see this in the marketplace. Nearly every big tool does this. All right, so it's all theory, right? It's a lot of theory I just threw at you. But what are some modern examples of people doing this right now? And I want to just pull up this table and give kudos to some of the kind of pioneers in this space. And these folks have just shown it in public that they're doing this. Liam Otley, Dave Eblar, Corbin Brown, Simon Hindenburg, Dan Coe, Dan Priestley. You may not know who these people are. I encourage you to just look them up on YouTube. They have big YouTube presences, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. They have some type of personal brand, and they have some type of authority in the AI space, whether it's from an academic perspective or simply just doing the work for a long time. And they're launching products around their brand in the AI space. And so there's Agentic, Gen AI Launchpad, Bump Ups, AidBase, Cortex, Score App, and Book Magic. Either way, they're not just throwing a random app into the ether and hoping it does well. They're building up a core message, building up a brand, then launching a application, a SaaS product. And so before I go into even more depth on this, I just want to highlight a clip I saw recently from Diary of the CEO, where Dan Priestley was actually interviewed, and you can see him talk about this model and from his own perspective.
So, of course, it's a pyramid. So the schooling system taught you that the way to be successful was to turn labor into skilled labor. So become skilled labor. Your time and your skills are what's valuable. And that was the Industrial Revolution model for everybody. We all went through that system, and we said that's where the journey ends. In fact, if you want, you can go to university, become really skilled labor. You can get a master's and become really skilled labor, PhD, become super skilled labor. And the whole goal is sell your time for more money. And then sitting on top of that is this new universe. And the new universe is this digital economy. And the first step above it is called intellectual property. Intellectual property is where, rather than learning more stuff, you reflect and create some stuff. So you say, oh, over the last 5 years, I did something special with that client, and we got a great result, and I can explain it step by step. I'm going to document that. I'm going to turn that into a story, and I'm going to record a video about it, and I'm going to have a little poster with a wheel that explains how we did that. And then I'm just going to let people know about that. So now we're in the business of intellectual property. Intellectual property is anything written, anything on video, anything audio, right? So intellectual property couples up with media. So IP and media are the next level above skilled labor. So the first step, get out of skilled labor model and get into intellectual property and media. And just making that step opens you up to this whole other world of opportunities. Sitting above that is data and intellectual property, media and data and software. So once we have IP and media, now we want data and software. So data is where we build a database, we get email addresses, we get information about customers, we know more about markets, we get people filling in forms, we get people filling in scorecards, we start conducting surveys. So we're capturing data that's unique to us. And then software is the ability to turn our intellectual property into an engine that just automatically delivers a result. And in that software bucket is the ability to create AI applications. So you're going to have to move your way up that pyramid. And then the final little top of the pyramid is the ability to create financial assets. Financial assets is where you sell your business for an amount of money. So you actually package all of that into a business that can be sold, and that business becomes a financial asset. The shares become a financial asset, and then you make a lot of money by selling a company. So you can't jump straight from being labor or skilled labor straight up to software and data and those sorts of things, which is the AI, advanced AI stuff. So you got to go through intellectual property, media, data, software.
And if you didn't catch what he was saying, I just want to really narrow in on this and make it visual. If you're like me, you're probably a visual learner. So I like to have some diagrams once in a while that really hone in on some of these points. And at the center of everything is this personal brand and domain expertise. You need both. It can't just be your personal brand. I'm a lifestyle. I'm in my Lamborghini. I'm showing off my cool watches. I don't think that's enough. That's going to get you far in a completely different direction, not in this model here. The domain expertise means you understand some portion of business really well. For me, I'm really good at doing technical work, and so that's my domain expertise. Yours might be really different. You also might be technical as well, but on a different side. Maybe it's networking or security, whatever it is, you have some type of domain expertise. The other half of this is having a personal brand, and this branches out into the media area. And so your personal brand is good, but you still have to have media distribution, which means a YouTube channel, LinkedIn, maybe even radio ads. I don't care what it is. Some way of reaching a lot of people one to many. This is not something that you can do where you're one to one relying on your resume or like a static portfolio website. That's just not going to get it done in 2025. I don't think that's ever gotten it done really in the past couple of years. Okay, and so once you have the media in place, the next is really deciding on the business model. What I'm talking about today, you can choose. All the business models have pros and cons. I just happen to think the Agentic SaaS model is probably the best model to move forward with. They all have pros and cons though. So in this case, I'm going to go with the Agentic SaaS model. Then next, you want to decide around your software. So software, not in the sense of selling it yet, but you do need a solid tech stack that backs you. And this might be things you buy from other companies or things you build in-house. I tend to be more on the build in-house, but I also buy a ton of software. A couple of tools are in my tech stack that I don't build and I use completely as no-code tools, low-code tools. Then there's a smattering of libraries and SDKs that I use as well. Then there's things I build completely custom from scratch. And so the last portion of this is your products. And this is where it gets interesting. You can start to spin out your internal things that you're building into products in the marketplace, especially if you're building around this personal brand and this domain expertise here. And maybe you've been building software that really aligns well with your domain expertise. You can just take that software, spin it out into a product and see how well it does. And this is effectively what I've been doing for the past couple of months. And so before I get into some of the examples and the different tools that I've tried to launch and why I launched them, the failures, all the lessons learned, I want to be honest about the harsh truth of Agentic SaaS here. And because I've hyped it up in the beginning of the video, I really need to bring it back down to earth. Everything has its pros and cons. I just want to be really upfront and honest with you here. This is not a beginner level model at all. It doesn't feel like it. AI literacy is pretty low, so it is on you to have a strong distribution and be able to educate the marketplace. If you are not willing to do these two things, then it's pretty much a non-starter. And this is one of the things I'm working on in 2025. That means having video content that is long form. Short form is not going to cut it, and you need to be able to build one-to-many relationships at scale. This is basically networking at an expert level. If you're still trying to network by going out to meetups and meeting one person at a time and shaking hands, it works, but nothing works better than video content where someone can really get to know your process, really understand your business, and basically show up ready to buy or ready to opt into whatever you're doing without you having to convince them, share a bunch of case studies, and also take them over to a steak dinner or something to sell your software. And it's really going to harp on your ability to do a bit of community building. I'm not saying you need to build a community of 1,000 people or anything like that, but almost everyone I listed before has some form of community that they have attached to their brand, and therefore it's much easier for them to build a product that people are actually going to like. And it's not like they're pushing a product on their community or their audience. The community audience is asking for it. I've paid for products from those people, and happily so, because one, I agree with their philosophy, their messaging, and how they approach problems. Of course, I'll just pay for the software that they're putting out because it helps me solve problems at the end of the day. And then again, this personal brand piece. The personal brand comes hand in hand with your intellectual property, your data, your software. Everything's going to be driven by this personal brand. So if you're not ready to build a personal brand, I'm not saying you gotta, again, no Lamborghinis, no nice watches or anything like that. Just being able to put yourself online and talk about what you do and talk about what you're passionate about. If you can't really do that, then this model is not going to be for you. And it's really about lifestyle over money. This is the priority here. Yes, you can probably make a lot of money with this, but you can make money with a lot of different business models. I could be talking about affiliate marketing. I could be talking about creating an Etsy shop. I could be talking about Amazon FBA, right? Drop shipping. There's a ton of things you can potentially make money, quote unquote. But this is really about building a lifestyle business, because once you build some type of software, once you build out these agents, They will work 24/7 for you for a very long time. All it really comes down to you doing the marketing work and also positioning the agents correctly inside the right vertical. And I'll be honest, you're gonna have to let this cook for 3 to 6 months. If you don't even have a distribution channel, you have to get that up and running. That's at least gonna take a month, a couple of videos to get that up and running. And you need to be able to build deep agents. This is not a nice to have. This is not, oh, maybe you get around to it. This is like a prerequisite skill. If you're still trying to figure out the architectures and things, this is going to be a tough business model because building agents is like step one, right? If you don't even know how to do this, then you need to go back to the drawing board, figure out how to do that first, then come into this business model in terms of building agents for people. And I say this because you're going to have to iterate on the agents. It's not like you build it one time, it works, all of a sudden it's perfect. No, you're going to have to iterate. You're going to have to build systems. You're going to have to make sure they're reliable. And so it's not just stand up an agent with LangChain and we're off to the races with $10,000 customers or anything like that. It's going to take some time. You're going to iterate. You're going to have to provide a lot of value. And so success is not guaranteed, but I think you can fail forward. And I'll just go through a couple of my examples here. Ghost was the first ever product I put out and really original. I was basically repurposing YouTube videos for other social media formats. No differentiation here. Built it in a rush. Did not integrate payments and auth correctly. It was really complex. Led to a lot of problems and bugs. I learned a lot. I don't rush anymore. I take my time with things. I make sure to start with the foundation always. And actually, from this project, I really understood how web apps worked because I built it from scratch using AWS, and I didn't use AWS Amplify. I didn't shortcut it with Vercel. I just really built it from scratch. So I learned very deeply how these apps work. It took a long time to develop, about 6 months. No revenue, no anything. And I didn't really talk to customers on this one. But once I was done, I realized that I just probably had to just start over. And the next one was thumb metrics. This was a idea based off my background. I wanted to generate analytics for YouTube videos, but this had too many features to focus on. I actually never did solve the distribution problem. I did again, build it and they would come. Don't know why. Everyone says not to do it. Did it anyways. It's a curse of being a builder. And what I learned here is I really have to narrow things down to 1 or 3 core features. But one of the great experiences I came away with was how to integrate payments and auth. I took my time to do this correctly and really learned how to do it. At the end of the day, it was actually pretty simple to do. I was just watching a bunch of YouTubers, their different products that they were using, and I ended up really confused. I settled on a couple of people who were a little bit more focused in the space, and so that helped a lot. This took about 3 months to do, but with all of these, I actually had client work throughout the entire process. So it was like nights and weekends building this, but just a couple hours here and there. I really tried not to stay up late and pull all-nighters to do this. It took about 3 months. Thumb Agents is the most recent one I launched here, and I actually did this a little bit differently. I built a very tiny prototype with one feature, which was A/B testing YouTube thumbnails. And when I took that to market and I talked to a couple of folks, because I got some folks interested in it, I was able to do a couple of demos and talk to people. I realized very quickly that I had made the wrong assumption about the jobs to be done here, where a problem I was solving was basically when I was creating a YouTube video, I would essentially test my thumbnails, then go create the YouTube video. It actually worked out. A lot of my YouTube videos did a little bit better because the thumbnails were tested. They were a little bit higher quality. The thing I made a wrong assumption about was my target clients and customers, they don't follow that same process. They actually create the YouTube video and then they send it off to a video editor. The video editor then creates the thumbnail. And because they weren't the people creating the thumbnails, they didn't really see the value in A/B testing thumbnails. Plus, their channels were too small for them to even get a lot of value from A/B testing the thumbnail because it wouldn't have made that much of a difference on their channel. Second, most of the thumbnails that these people were making were really simple, meaning they could just go into Canva, put their face, a little bit of text, and that was it. This tool would have been better for someone who's like an entertainment channel who's making really poppy thumbnails. But it just happens that the trend right now is not to make those type of thumbnails, and thumbnails are getting really simple. So you can just make them in Canva. Although I'm probably still going to use this A/B testing tool a lot, I probably will integrate it into another product that I'm following up with. This was a really good lesson to learn about do customer research first, because I was able to kill this idea very quickly. And I also learned how to build a credit system. That means for every action taken in the app, I would decrease the credits that I gave to the client, making this pretty much aligned with the usage-based model that's really popular right now. This one took about a month to develop. Again, still doing client work, still working on other things. I had a life, and I was able to get this down in 1 month, do the customer research, do a little bit of marketing, get some video demos in. And so failing forward is the theme here. Each time you do this, you want to learn a little bit and get a little bit better each time. And so what are some practical next steps? This is for me, for you, if you're in the same spot as me and you've tried a couple and you failed a couple times and now you're trying another one. These are some practical next steps I think that make sense. One is a combination of technical and marketing skills are needed here. I don't think it's either or. I don't think you need to be stronger in one or the other. You just have to do both and be comfortable with having this skill set. Marketing, there's a bunch of marketing books you can read. There's pretty much no excuse anymore to not be good at marketing. There's so many online guides, people teaching this, courses you can take. You can get good at this. This is not something you can just throw your hands up and say, oh, I'm technical. I don't know how to do marketing. On the technical side, there's, again, guides, courses, AI. There's enough out there now where you can't just throw up your hands and say, oh, I'm not technical enough. I won't be able to do this. If you take some time, learn the fundamentals, learn the basics, AI can take you 80% of the way there. Partner up with someone who's technical, have them review your stuff, have them give you help on that side. But again, not really many excuses left on that end. I think what I did that really saved me time was template out your SaaS style. You can use either my templates or someone else's templates. It doesn't really matter. Just template it out. So you're not starting from scratch each time you have a new idea. Next up is really having focus. I stopped learning random AI tools. I think there's a bunch of great AI tools out there. People send me tools all the time because I have this YouTube channel. They send me a lot of tools to try. I'm probably trying 5 at this point, but I make time to do it and I time box it. That means I'm not spending all day playing around with the tool. Also, I'm not learning random techniques. I still haven't learned how to do like agentic RAG, quote unquote. I think it's just RAG with agents, but I have not watched a video on it. I haven't done anything like that, but I've built out products that use multimodal inputs and also uses retrieval augmented generation. Just by doing it, I didn't really need to sit and learn how to do it from somebody else. And so if you focus on building an end-to-end solution, you'll just learn the right thing at the right time instead of trying to go out and learn all of these techniques and become perfect at every single technique in every framework. It's really a time suck. And start with your clients. This is the one I learned recently. Start with people who are in your space where you understand the domain and go talk to them, build a small MVP. I don't know if you can get away with not building anything anymore, but build something very tiny, talk to them, see if they like the product, try to understand what their jobs to be done is, and quickly kill it if it's not a good idea. Move on if it's a good idea. And so I'm making sure to launch products with dedicated campaign plans. Right now, I'm reading Software as a Science. This is by Dan Martell. I'm sure you've heard of Dan Martell. And this is a really good book because it covers some of those areas I talked about in terms of if you don't know marketing, go read this book. It just outlines all the different types of marketing you can do for your product. And it helps you really clearly identify what you should prioritize, what you should not prioritize. For some of you, it's going to be cold outreach. I don't like to do cold outreach, but hey, maybe it's going to work for you. For some of you, it's going to be inbound marketing. For some others, it's going to be paid ads. Whatever it is important to just double click and focus on it and then pair it up with your strong agentic SaaS business model. And in 2025, things are changing. All the traditional models are pretty much out the door. I'm really excited for the deep research type agents. I'm also going to make a couple more videos on this model specifically and really explaining the ins and outs of it and why I'm moving in this direction. And so if you are interested in all of that, tune in to my future videos, but also you can just watch this deep dive agentic SaaS video I made a couple weeks ago.